Ja'Marr Chase out of LSU, 201 pounds, 6 foot. This is a guy who led FBS not last year, but in 2019 and dominated. 1,780 receiving yards, 20 touchdowns on 84 receptions, had played in 14 games, broke some SEC records with those numbers as well. And this is a guy who comes in, and I'm going to say this out the gates. When I watched Ja'Marr Chase.
And you didn't mention, though, that he opted out 2020.
I thought I did mention that.
No, I just wanted to get it out there just so everyone knew. You said that these are 2019 numbers, but he actually opted out. There wasn't an injury or anything.
Yes, he opted out.
Yep.
Like a lot of players. Well, not a lot, but he opted out. So going back and watching his 2019 film, I'm looking at a guy that I was just ready to see as my stud. You know, like the stud muffin. You know, right? Ja'Marr Chase is built in my head. Like, this guy is absolutely going to just blow off the tape here and look fantastic. Just blow off. Yeah, whoop, there he is. He was on my tape a minute ago. He's so good. He just ran off the tape. There he is in my living room. But I came away with
jump off the tape. That's what you were going for. That's what you were.
These words are so tricky sometimes. I came away with Ja'Marr Chase with a feeling of he's a really good receiver.
There's not a lot to not like about this guy, right?
Yeah, there's nothing I don't not like about Ja'Marr Chase. There's nothing I like.
That was a double negative. Yeah, so there is something that you don't like.
Okay, let's start with the things I didn't really think were that great. I mean, he could block a little better.
He doesn't give maximum effort, I feel like, on every play. I felt like when he wasn't the option, the number one option, you could tell. Because when you're watching tape, you're supposed to be watching the player that's playing. Right. You know what I mean? So you're not watching necessarily if the ball gets handed off and it's going the other way. But when it did, you could tell. You could tell when it was a running play just by the way he was running his route or trying to block, or if he wasn't the primary guy. Those are the kind of things that kind of get at me. I'm like, you're only going to give maximum effort on plays that are intended to go to you. That kind of always rubs me the wrong way.
Sure.
And you're always going to get knocked in my book if I see that kind of stuff on tape. And I did see that, not all the time, but sometimes.
Seldomly. I mean, there was a play, I think it was a championship game or what it was, and the play broke down and Joe Burrow was scrambling, and Ja'Marr Chase was to his right, literally just standing there looking at him
yeah. They could have broke off some plays as well. I feel like, those 5 or 10 yard plays could become bigger plays if he maybe put some effort into blocking downfield as well.
His routes are okay.
I think his routes are pretty good. I can't knock him much on his routes.
Okay,
they're not the best. They're not the best. Yeah, they're absolutely not the best.
I'm just trying to think of some weaknesses that could kind of knock the guy on this. I think he's a fantastic receiver, by the way. This is a guy, he explodes off the line, right? He can stack his receiver really well. His routes are solid enough, but he's very physical. He'll go up and get the football. He's got good hands. Does he have the best hands in the world? No.
Here's the thing.
And this really good.
And this is what I noted. Because downfield, I felt like he attacked the ball really well and made a lot of tough catches, even with defenders on him. But closer to the line of scrimmage was a different story. If he had a guy in tight on him and he's just running a little crossing route or a comeback route, he didn't have as much success with a guy close to him. He dropped some of those passes.
It did seem like he was already going on to the next step at times.
Indeed. And those are the kind of things where if you're the top dog, you're making those plays no matter what, because you're just that good at catching and you're that honed in all the time. So it's the effort on the blocking and some of the things off the ball when it's not going to him. And it's the stuff close to the line of scrimmage that I feel like are just gimmies. Yeah. You should be able to get 3 or 4 and maybe even break off a 5 to 7 yard run, but you're just dropping the ball. And so it's those.
He does have good hands. I don't want to say his hands are, when I say that his hands are okay. I would say he has bad hands. I just say that when you talk about a guy who has elite hands, because again, we're talking about a prospect here. We have to be nitpicky about
we're picking him apart. He's my number 2 guy.
He's my wide receiver too as well.
I think he's our consensus.
I don't want to bump him down too much and make it sound worse than it is, but this is the reason he's not number 1 are these few things that I'm saying, because everything else he does really, really well.
Because basically we were going to ask you, well, why isn't Ja'Marr Chase your number 1? This is why.
This is why.
Yep. It's crazy. It really is crazy that we're all on the same page here, because I thought
that's very surprising.
He'd be number 1, because I went into this wide receiver breakdowns expected him to be my wide receiver 1, because he's just, the yards are there, the stats are there. But even when you're watching it, it's like, oh, these yards they just come up on you. You know what I mean? Like he does. He made those big plays downfield. And this is a guy who had 8 touchdowns that were past 50 yards in 2019.
Lots of big plays.
But again, I mean, you said like he dominates at the point of attack. He's a very physical receiver. And he's got really good speed. And this is a guy, when I look at the NFL level, who's going to be he has the upside through the roof. But he also is one of those players, like if he comes in, big time name, and he was the guy that came, like if you went to, say the Bengals did take Ja'Marr Chase, like it wouldn't surprise me if T. Higgins was a better overall fantasy receiver than Ja'Marr Chase. Like it, not to the point, like some people look at Amari Cooper, for example, as like a disappointment, right? Because of how high he was drafted in there. But he's still wide receiver 1 in Dynasty, right?
And I think that is the nice part about Ja'Marr Chase is he is so incredibly safe. Like you can take him anywhere in the first round, and I'm not going to be mad at you. And you know that you're going to at least get a fantasy wide receiver 2 for the most part for his career. And I think when I go through my nerd score, and this is when I'm saying these numbers, these are my personal score. This isn't our overall score. But for me, I had a 79.6, which is the second highest score out of all my wide receivers. And I'm looking through here, and I mentioned last week, how we have it graded. 6 is your average NFL player. My lowest number on anything for him is a 7.5. So that just kind of shows you where he's at. Literally everything he does very well. I do think he's one of the most physical players in this class, and I think that's one of the differentiators for him. And he has great control over his body. That's something that you see sometimes is you see guys go downfield and you can tell that they just get disjointed. They lose track of the ball. He is always in control of what he's doing. He's very smooth, very polished from that perspective. So I have no questions that he will be successful at the next level. It's just, will he be a good receiver or will he be elite? That's what I'm not sure about.
Yeah, I mean, he just accelerates so well. I mean, he's just, even off the line, he does it so well all over the field. And he kind of reminds me a little bit of Robert Woods, a little bit there. Again, and some people would say, oh, that's a bad, Robert Woods. People fail to realize Robert Woods is like a high-end, super high-end wide receiver 2 consistently, like wide receiver 13, wide receiver 14. Like, that to me seems like, oh, that's like Ja'Marr Chase if he doesn't turn into a superstar, right? Like he turns into Robert Woods, which again, if you can get a 21, 22-year-old Robert Woods that's going to put up wide receiver 13 to 14, occasionally wide receiver 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 numbers, that's a home run in a rookie draft. Again, a home run. If you can take a rookie pick, no matter where you take them, and that player at wide receiver turns into a consistent high-end wide receiver 2, which again is wide receiver 13, 14, 15, that's a home run pick. A home run pick because you're getting somebody you can start on your roster week in and week out. And those guys are just hard to come by.
Can we call it a triple? Can we call
instead of a home run?
Instead of a home run?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the home run would be the top 5 guy, like all the consent.
Sure.
Okay, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Like that's a home run.
Yeah.
Getting a guy like that in the top part of the first round it's like a triple. You did really well.
And you're never going to be upset
and
with
you're
that
never
pick.
going to be upset with it. Yeah, because all you need is a little single to get you home. So it's, I mean, it's not that bad. But there are just those few nitpicky things. And like I said, and a lot of those things can be improved on. I think it's all you need is the right coach to light a fire in your ass, like during a film session. Like, hey, dude, you can't do this right here, and you're going to be amazing. Like, this is the little things that are going to get you over the top. And who knows, the year off, he could have gotten that kind of coaching and guidance from whomever he was training with. And maybe he comes into camps and you never see any of that. And he turns out to be this amazing guy that lives up to all the potential.
It wouldn't shock me.
Me neither.
That would not shock me in the least.
Me neither, but we have to go off. We're basing this stuff off of stuff we're looking at on tape. And those are the little nitpicky things that I can say bumped him down below.
Very high ceiling. Easily go just like at LSU, like you could turn into an Odell Beckham. You know what I mean? Like Odell Beckham came in, same thing, right around pick, like in the teens or like 13, 12, right around there. Ja'Marr Chase could easily turn into Odell Beckham. He could easily turn into now he's faster than Jarvis Landry, but like a Jarvis Landry, again, who was a very solid NFL player who broke records. We all love Ja'Marr Chase. He is our consensus number 2 overall wide receiver, coming in as number 2 receiver in a very strong class, ahead of guys like right now, Elijah Moore, Jalen Waddle, Rondale Moore. These are
Rashad Bateman.
These are it's a strong class at receiver. So for him to be number 2 says a lot.